Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank Final Forms, the industry leader in registration. But you need to know this: Final Forms is more than just registration. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it provides schools with compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms helps your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility and has reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that go with athletics. Final Forms helps with team communication and attendance and even certification management for coaches. And for athletic directors, Final Forms helps with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this with secure language translation and ADA compliance. It's time for you to talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. Once again, go to finalforms.com/Jake to get started on the Final Forms team. We also want to thank Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 200,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to help their teams using video and analytics. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. There's always been analytics, but there's a whole lot more. Huddle is also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high schools and colleges, and even the pros use Huddle to help their athletes play at the highest level. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes and the coaches, the college teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year and create the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see what these fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles and an entire library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments by going to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or you can call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. And we want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your school by going to hometownticketing.com and talk to their experts. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. And we also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also gives the 95% of your parents and players the opportunity to show the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. They love your program. Give them a chance to tell you that. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Got a really cool guest today, Mandy Green. She's the president of Busy Coach. She's also a national recruiting coordinator for a company called Tudor Collegiate Strategies, longtime college coach at the D1 level. And today she's going to share with us, Mandy Green. Welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we connected on LinkedIn. Really liked some of your posts and thought you'd be a valuable resource for our listeners. So let's go and jump right into it. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that 5-minute bio. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Went to school? A little sports background, and how that path has now led you to Busy Coach.
Yeah, no, so I'm Minnesota, born and raised, and was a 4-sport athlete growing up. I played soccer and basketball. I played ringette. I'm old enough where they didn't have hockey in high school, so we played ringette. It's big in Canada now, I think, still, but and I played softball, and I played in high school. I went on and played 2 years of Division I soccer, and then my mom got really sick, so I transferred back home to McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota, and we were a top 5 team in the country. And I was thinking, come to graduation, I didn't quite know what I was going to do as a college graduate, and then old high school coach got me into, they needed a coach for a U17 girls team, soccer. And I'm like, I don't like talking in front of people. I didn't think I really wanted to get into the coaching world, but I knew I was hanging up my cleats and I wasn't going to play college soccer anymore. So I'm like, what the heck? And I coached that summer with my little brother, and we just laughed. We laughed all summer and had the best time ever. And then it just happened to be where I was at a tournament, and my former coach when I was at Loyola of Chicago just happened to be, her husband was at a tournament, and we ran into each other, and one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I was a volunteer assistant at University of Utah with my former college coach and her wife. And that's how I got into college coaching. I never, ever, ever dreamed I would get into the profession. I thought I was going to go into physical therapy or wanted to get into maybe sports counseling a little bit. And I don't know, just who I knew. It just one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I was a college coach. And I've coached I was at University of Utah for 4 years. I came back home to Minnesota and coached at Minnesota State Mankato for 5 years. And then, we went on and coached at Loyola Marymount. We coached at Xavier. I was a head soccer coach at University of South Dakota for 8 years. And then for the last 4 years, my husband has been a full-time assistant at Youngstown State. And I found when I became a first-time head coach and a first-time mom all within 10 days of each other. And I very quickly, I was not blessed with children that slept well. And so, and I didn't have full-time help my first 3 years at the school I was at. And I do what all coaches do, right? We wear 100 hats, and I had my mom hat, my coach hat, my recruiting hat, my wife hat, my mom hat on 24/7. And I pretty much was burning myself out. And I knew I had a choice to make. Either I could find a better way to kind of take a time out and find a better way to do what I was doing so I could stay in the profession for longer, or I could, just keep trying to just plug away 24/7. And I knew I was burning out, and I knew that wasn't working for me, and I wasn't bringing my best for the people that needed me. So I just went out and started studying everybody anything I could get my hands on, reading books and listening to podcasts and going to courses and going to conferences. And Busy Coach started by me just trying to solve my own problem, right? Of trying to fix my own poor work habits. And then it led to, hey, I see what you're doing. Like, you're smiling, like you don't look like you haven't slept, you actually look like you slept, what's going on? And I just started sharing a little bit here or there. And before I knew it, I had a book, and before I knew it, I started speaking at other places. And then once I have two kids, and once they got a little bit older, it just became hard for my husband and I to both coach full time with, wanting them to actually do martial arts and do some of the stuff that they like to do without babysitters taking them to everything. And so I was like, why don't I take a step back and I'll do busy coach more full time. And then I also got into the recruiting stuff with Dan Tudor, where, I mean, I've been a long time client of his and a huge advocate of, clear communication, current strategies and latest trends with recruiting is what that company does. And I love the fact with that I get to manage a lot of his clients through the Midwest and help coaches recruit this generation of student athletes more effectively. And then I add the busy coach aspect to it and help college coaches be more productive and efficient and effective, doing their work faster and more efficiently with higher quality is what I kind of combine the two together. So that's pretty, I mean, hopefully that is sort of in a nutshell what I've been doing probably the last 25 years.
That's a very good nutshell for all that. But I love how what you're doing now, with Busy Coach and the recruiting, it came very organically as you were moving along and trying to solve, challenges that you were facing that are universal, for coaches. As you were telling that story, my wife, we're both retired now, but career coach and teacher. And I remember those days, very well. I was a head football coach. She was a head cross country and track coach, and, 3 kids, juggling all those tasks. You're absolutely right. Very, very cool. And we're going to take a little bit deeper dive into both of those programs today on the podcast. For listeners, Mandy Green is our guest today. She's the president of Busy Coach, longtime college coach, and works with Tudor Collegiate Strategies, national recruiting coordinator. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Final Forms for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in registration, but you need to know this. Final Forms is more than just registration. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it provides schools with things like compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility, has reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that go with athletics. Final Forms can help with team communication, can help with attendance, and even certification management for coaches. And for ADs, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this using secure language translation and ADA compliance. It's time for you to walk with a team that's also walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with the Final Forms team. Welcome back, everyone. We're visiting today with Mandy Green. She's the president of Busy Coach. Mandy, before we take a deeper dive into Busy Coach, we always like to have our guests share some of the mentors that they've had in their life and their career. None of us get to where we're at on our own. So who are some of the people that helped you along the way?
For sure. I mean, I would need to mention my parents, because I don't believe I would have the work ethic I have today if I had not modeled, watching my parents growing up. My parents used to own a bakery. And so my dad would go in at 7 p.m. and would do all the baking. And then my mom would wake up first thing in the morning and I think that's where my hatred of getting up really early in the morning came from. But we used to have this motor home, and my mom used to wake us up at 2, 3 in the morning, and we would go and we would, before school, elementary school, we would frost the donuts, and we would, of course, eat our fair share of donuts. It's amazing. I'm not 500 pounds, but they worked so hard. And so, I definitely took that, and, I feel like I got my work ethic from them. I got my start in college coaching from Amy Winslow. She now coaches in in Illinois. She's a school guidance counselor, but just seeing how relational she was with the players, how the quality of kid that she recruited and how she managed the teams really was a great start for me in college coaching. It was she took me in when I wasn't sure it was really something I wanted to do, and she made it fun. And she made it just the staff environment we had. There was a lot of laughter. There was a lot of challenging. There was a lot of new experiences. And it really got me off to a great start with college coaching. And then I would say, I mean, most of the mentors that I have now, I mean, Dan Tudor, certainly, I mean, what the work that he's doing with college coaches in the recruiting world is nobody does it. Nobody's doing it, or maybe other people are doing it, but they're not doing it to the quality that he is doing it. And he just watching him and seeing the effect that he's had. I mean, it certainly, I created my company. I blame Dan Tudor for Busy Coach being created because I applied all the stuff that he taught me and it worked so well. I had to figure out how to keep up with all of it. And so that was, I mean, he certainly has been a positive impact. And I see the way that he has built his business, and a lot of my Busy Coach stuff is modeled through, you know, kind of the same framework that he has his, you know, business model set up with. And then, I mean, I listen to Darren Hardy is the author of The Compound Effect. I listen to pretty much everything he does, just as far as creating better systems and productivity and that kind of stuff. And Brendan Burchard is another mentor that he has this book, High Performance Habits, and has all sorts of stuff that he does as far as just positive thinking, you know, performance, all that kind of stuff. So I would say, I mean, you know, right, you know, you're like the 5 people that you hang out with the most. Well, I work out of my house, and so, you know, I've got a German Shepherd puppy laying under my feet, and I've got a chocolate lab snoring in the other room. So I'm kind of by myself all day. So I need to, you know, surround myself through podcasts and through, you know, just different mentors, you know, and so I'm studying those two, I would say, the most of everybody. But, you know, certainly, I mean, there's hundreds of people that I've just met that have made this profession really fun, and it certainly has gotten me this deep into my career.
I love, you know, a couple of themes that you shared there. You know, one is that, you know, you're a lifelong learner, you know, continuing to, you know, talk to other people, listen to podcasts, read books, very cool. And you used in, you know, you and I were talking before the show about, you know, how, you know, you're not an athletic director, but certainly, you know, very involved with athletics, but you're using a very typical athletic director trait of, you know, taking things from other people and then,
Yep.
you know, applying them, amplifying. You know, we talk about in our world, not reinventing the wheel, but, you know,
Yep.
stealing, borrowing, you know, using
Yep.
great ideas, best practices, you know, for
Yep.
our own. You know, you mentioned that, you know, watching Dan Tudor, you know, it kind of inspired you to create Busy Coach. What's maybe 1 or 2 nuggets that just really stick out for you that you see that you've applied with your Busy Coach principles?
I mean, as far as the business aspect to it that I've
Right.
taken from Dan, you know,
Mhm.
a big part of it is just getting out there face to face with coaches and speaking in person as best I can. So I've really, I mean, I certainly, I mean, I stayed behind a computer screen and was trying to write, you know, books as best I could, but I found, I mean, right, books are good, but a lot of books are sitting on most people's shelves collecting dust, right? And so I really have enjoyed, and I really feel like I've built my Busy Coach business through getting, I mean, I bet you through COVID, 300, 400 calls, Zoom calls that I did face to face with coaches. And now that campuses are opening up, trying to get on campuses and working one-on-one with coaches, but, you know, a lot of group coaching and then individual meetings and follow-up coaching afterwards has been a big part of what I've done with Busy Coach. And I feel like that's how Dan really, you know, he put on the miles. He's got millions of sky miles, right? he's just all over the place, getting in front of coaches, sharing his message about how, to more effectively recruit student athletes. But for me, it's, I feel like to effectively recruit student athletes, you need to avoid a lot of distractions, right? You need to be able to get, we all know, right? You could have the best plan on the planet, but if you can't show up and execute it every single day, it's for nothing, right? And so that's where I'm trying to get out as best I can, wanting to start a podcast here soon, but just spread the message, right, through face-to-face on campus, and then, through YouTube and through some podcast stuff is what's coming up here for Busy Coach.
Very, very cool stuff. Appreciate you sharing that. Once again, for our listeners, we're visiting today with Mandy Green. She is the founder and president Busy Coach, also the national recruiting coordinator for Tudor Collegiate Strategies, and along with being a longtime college coach. We're going to take another break, but we'll be back. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Huddle for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Over 200,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to help their teams play better using video and analytics. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. There's always been analytics, but there's a whole lot more. Huddle's built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs, and even the pros are using Huddle to help their teams play at the highest level. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Welcome back, everyone. Again, we're visiting with Mandy Green, the president of Busy Coach. Mandy, let's go and talk about Busy Coach. You kind of gave a little bit of the origin story, but obviously, you're in business to, help coaches and help ADs. So tell us a little bit about it. Why should, an athletic director, and athletic directors, you should, but why should an athletic director reach out and find out more about Busy Coach?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. It's most coaches, right, get into the profession. They go from being an athlete to immediately going into the office. There's no training for them. And most grad assistants, young assistants just model the behavior of their, the head coach that they've been working with. Well, what did the head coach do? They're modeling the behavior of their previous head coach. Well, I feel like so that's what I'm trying to do, is provide that training. Like we mentioned earlier, is you could have the best plan on the planet, but if you're not executing it, it's for nothing. Well, I find most coaches, establish their vision for the job interview, that they're trying to get, and then they stick it in a drawer and they never look at it again. And they get so busy wearing so many hats, doing so many things, they get pulled in a million different directions. They basically take 100 steps or one step in 100 different directions versus taking 100 steps in one direction. And so what I do for coaches is we dust off that vision, and then we make sure that they are doing so that we basically find one true north, right, to aim all our actions and filter all our decisions through. We establish what is the vision, what are the goals that they're trying to accomplish for this next year, not just with their team, but with their staff and the culture they're trying to create, but also, just personally, where do they want their career to be by the end of the year? And most coaches, we need to establish what are the high value activities that are going to get them there. Most coaches, like I said, getting pulled in so many different directions, they get stuck in the weeds, and so never really take and carve out the time to build the future of their program. They're always stuck in the weeds doing the day-to-day kind of stuff. And so I help establish the vision, we establish the goals. What are the high value versus low value activities that are going to, give them the bigger return on the time and effort they're putting in? The low value activities that need to get done, can we, we strategically find the best time and place to do those things. And then, just day by day, it's aligning what are the highest value activities that a coach needs to be doing with when are they the most energetic, the most focused, and have the fewest amount of distractions, right? It's aligning those two things for structured 90 30 60 90 minute chunks of the day, where they can get more done in that time than most coaches can get done in an entire day. So I try to apply, honestly, it's a lot of the framework that I use is coaches need to organize their day just like they would a practice. Most practices for coaches, they're not on their phone every 5 seconds. They are not checking email. They're not texting. They would never, they always start with the highest priority activity when the energy is best. Everything is timed, right? And they move things along. They're taking breaks. And that's what I'm trying to help coaches do, is make sure they're not wasting time. They're not spending too much time on low value things that aren't building the future of their program. They're focused on key things that are needle moving things, like, on the recruiting side of it. When I look at, and I have a lot of coaches tell, show me your calendar, show me what's ending up on it, which really helps me see what they are prioritizing, and a lot of coaches will have recruiting on their to-do list. Well, what does that mean, right? Oh, well, we just organized, names in a database, or we just, had a meeting about recruiting. And I'm like, that's not recruiting, right? Recruiting is moving your, best recruit to the next mile marker in the process. We got to keep them moving along. And so it's a lot of times it's just redefining what needs to be on. I try to get coaches to not have a to-do list. Let's have a results list. What are the actions? What are the outcomes we need by the end of the week? What sort of metrics can we, aim to hit and establish and guide all of our actions towards? And then, it's a lot of reflection. It's, I think, again, coaches get going so fast in so many different directions, and they fail to really stop and take a look at what are all the actions that I've been doing over the course of the last few weeks. What impact have I made, or what are the outcomes that I've created? And so, kind of like coaches do throughout the course of the week, they make a plan, they work the plan, their teams play the games, or, they're practicing, they play the games, and then they watch game film, right? And that game film, they review. Game film doesn't lie, and they review, how they're based on, the actions and their performance. Did we get the ideal outcome? And if we didn't, right, you reprioritize, you replan, you find new actions or better actions that you think are going to get you in a better direction. And that's basically all I'm doing with coaches, right? Is let's take a time out every couple of weeks. Let's check in, review all of the actions you've been doing. Are we doing enough of the right things? And, what do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? What do we need to stop doing? What do we need to start doing? So it's a lot of that, a lot of follow-up, a lot of, taking action on things. Let's create a plan, let's take action and see, and then let's course correct all throughout is what I do for a lot of coaches. And honestly, a lot of it is not necessarily adding more things. A lot of it is just, what do we need to eliminate first? Because, right, is, the coaches, as we're stressing to our athletes to be healthy, usually it's not, let's add one, green shake first thing in the morning. That will have very little impact. You can have more of an impact by eliminating eating the French fries and the late night fast food binging. That's going to have more of an effect on their overall performance than one green shake, right, first thing in the morning. And so that's a lot of times with coaches is first we got to figure out where can we trim the fat, right? And what are they doing too much of that we need to reduce and eliminate? And through that just elimination stuff, it frees up a lot more time. And so there's kind of two aspects. It's the personal productivity is kind of the I went through that real quick. And then the second part of it is when you have to manage other people, right? There's so many things coaches do on a repeatable basis, or that, repeatable processes. And I really do believe that everybody, everybody has a system for how they do things, and the system is set up perfectly for the results they're getting. And if they want different results, they got to create better systems, right? And so that's another thing that I do is we take everything that they're doing that's a repeatable task as a college coach. Let's get it out of their head onto paper. And then once it's on paper, you can evaluate, you can analyze what's working. What do we need to start doing? What do we need to stop doing? What should we do less of? What should we do more of? Is there a different order? Because I think if you're not getting to your ideal results consistently, again, there's steps to the process. We just got to change the steps until we get to that ideal result every single time. And so ideally, what I'm trying to help coaches do is find the best way of doing it, create a process for it, and then just basically work the process every single time. There's a lot of head coaches that I feel like keep a lot of the tasks that they're doing to themselves. They just have young grad assistants who are coming in and working with them, and it's just easier, it's faster if I do everything, because by the time I train them to figure it out, now they're off and getting a full-time job, and now I got to do the same thing for somebody else. And so it's a lot of what do you need to do as a head coach? What can we delegate? And then how to delegate it effectively to your young staff. So, the young staff is gaining experience and learning and layering on new experiences, but also we're freeing up the head coach's time to really focus more on big picture strategy, team stuff, because bottom line, coaches are just they have to do a lot of things, and I can't take really anything off their to-do list, but I can help them restructure their day much more effectively. So they're getting the key things done that need to get done, delegating the rest to the people that they have to work with them. So ultimately, they're making progress in their program throughout the course of the year without burning out is my goal, right? For all of that. So I know that was a really long rambling answer to your question, but it's personal productivity, right? Self-execution system, and then systems for when you're having, for the repeat tasks that you have to do every day, every year as a coach. Those two combined, because one individually, right, it helps, but when you combine all of it together, I think that's where the magic happens with coaching.
Yeah, no, you're right. That was a lot, but it was all very, very good. My, two takeaways, I guess, number one, you talk about the high value activities. I love that term. And then also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like you were promoting a less is more approach, yep, which I've always tried to do. Well, not always. I learned how important that was as a coach and as an AD. Very cool stuff. We'll do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, and also, go to the website, find out more about it, how do they do that? Where do they go?
Yeah, no. So my website is busy.coach is the website. And then you can email me at mandy@busy.coach is probably the best way to get a hold of me, or I'll even give you my cell phone number if that am I allowed to do that on a podcast? I suppose it's 319.
You're allowed to do that. I don't know if I would do that, but no, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'll give it to you, right? It's 319-621-2384 if you want to give me a call. And would love to talk to, there's quite a few athletic departments that are bringing me in to do a full workshop with the entire department. But then also I have a few athletic directors who have me working specifically one-on-one with coaches, where I meet with them every single week over the course of a span of, sometimes 4 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes for the full year, and, really, really making significant progress with these coaches.
Okay. All right. Again, we'll give out that information again at the end of the interview. Today, we're visiting with Mandy Green. She's the founder and president of Busy Coach. We're going to take another break, but we'll be back with more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year and create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call them at 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see what these fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back, everyone. We're visiting today with Mandy Green, the president of Busy Coach. Mandy, one of the things we try to do with this podcast is the idea of sharing best practices. And, you certainly, seen the athletic experience, Division I coach, recruiting on a national level, and now, with Busy Coach. What are some best practices, or maybe even some success stories, that you've seen with some of the clients that you've worked with? Again, getting, you and I were talking about not so much working harder, but working smarter, working better, being more productive. That's what an athletic director wants to see. So do you have any best practices or success stories you can share?
Yeah, no, for sure. So there is an athletic department that I work with where it's a Division III athletic department, and the athletic director approached me saying, my coaches are working a lot of hours. They've got multiple responsibilities, working in the strength and conditioning and doing, other side administrative type things. And she tasked me with getting, when they needed to increase the number of recruits to commit, right? Because it's all about enrollment, right? We got to get their numbers. But she also wanted the coach to, increase their confidence and make more of an impact with the time that they're putting in. Because like we were talking about earlier is, I think in all my experience in my 23 years as a college coach, I know athletic directors don't really care about the hours worked, right? It's more about creating a great experience for the student athletes, keeping yourself healthy, right, and your family strong as a college coach, graduation, and all that kind of stuff. And so with there were 4 coaches that I worked with. I met for 30 minutes to an hour every single week for the course of 4 months. And just through, again, we started with their vision. I asked them, what are your goals? Not one of them could tell me, and I think they're more guilty of looking at their phone, than they are looking at their goals. And so we established keystone habits, right? What is one thing you could do that really would knock out a lot of other things? And for most of them, it was planning. We always started with the night before planning. What are 3, not all the little mini tasks, right? Pick from your high value things you need to get done. What are 3 things we need to be doing tomorrow that will make an impact, that will make progress towards your goals, right? Whether professional, team, staff, recruiting goals. What are those 3 things? We really stressed, or we found kind of their magic time, right? What is that time where we can align high value activities with fewest distractions, focus, and energy, and with the fewest distractions? What is the environment we need to create? So some of them had to actually not go into the office. They had to work somewhere else. Some of them were doing all of this stuff, a little bit here, a little bit there, but really through repeated, me, just constantly on them about and we're always looking at their calendar and making sure the right things are ending up on their calendar. But just through a lot of just kind of cutting and pasting and trying and, taking action, massive action, what is the result, and course correcting, a lot of that kind of stuff. We were able to, over the course of 4 months, these coaches, some of them went and had no commits when we started. But I get texts, I get emails from these coaches like, got another one, and they're getting, 2 of them are at 10 commits for this next year. And that was their goal, 10 or 11. So, over the course of 4 months, especially in the spring, that's where a lot of coaches don't think that they, it's just getting tougher and tougher to get these kids. They're out there, we just got to keep taking action, and we got to keep taking the right action. And so over the course of a few months, we really were able to identify and eliminate things that weren't working. So we cut those out. We spent more time doing a few other key things for that specific coach, enhanced, some of the things that they were already doing. And we got their commitments up, stress level down, impact up, so they were not working more hours, but because they were choosing to do higher value things over low value things and starting with that stuff first, they were making more impact. They felt like they were actually making progress, which increased their confidence quite a bit. But also we were able to, they were trying to do everything themselves, and we figured out where could we add a work study person? We added that, and then how do we properly delegate to that person? They don't have full-time staff, so we had to get creative, with a few different things. We got their social media, up and running, and now, they're starting to, I don't think with social media with coaching that it should be about the number of followers. I think it needs to be about the engagement is more important for social media. And so we created a lot of content. We now have a system, right, where there's, they created the content using their current team. They got it scheduled, and so now they basically have all of their content created for over the summer. And so now they can actually go home and rest and relax and enjoy their summer and recharge their batteries, knowing that they already have the content to email to recruits. They have the content for social media already done. And, now we're starting to kind of plan for their fall season. And so it's a lot of proactively getting out ahead of a lot of things and creating it all at one time is what I helped a lot of these coaches do. And so, so for their athletic director, now they've got happier, healthier, better relationships with their team, because we were able to, crank out and strategically kind of work through some of these things in a very short amount of time, which freed up more time now for them to provide a better experience, better planning, better thought processes about how to better strategically approach their team, and so there's lots of little things that we were able to do over the course of the few months. But, for me, being able to get a coach home sooner to their families with still, and not get home and just be unpresent and just staring at their phone the whole time. It's, let's be present with your family. What are the fun things you need to do as a coach to recharge your batteries, so you are fresh and recharged and coming back a better version of yourself the next day, right? And that's how I think coaches can get to higher levels of performance, right? Is you can't just let them react to what the world is throwing at you. We got to be proactive and take charge of where they want to go, and it's just choices, right? So I just help coaches over the course of a few months make better choices for what they're choosing to work on, but set the plan, work the plan, and then course correct, so we're always trying to get back on track and making sure that all of our actions are aligning, with ultimately the vision of where they want to go, which helps athletic directors, right? Because they're getting their numbers up, and then I imagine it costs quite a lot of money to have to keep rehiring coaches, and or teams that aren't winning, athletes aren't happy, and so I'm hoping that in the long run that's where it's going to benefit athletic directors quite a lot, is with happier, healthier, more productive coaches, less cost on turnover, less time spent hiring new people, but better results in a short amount of time, basically.
Right. I love, I love as, you're explaining the whole process, doing, applying those coaching principles, to your life, your work, recruiting here. But at the same time, you always come back with, the happy, healthy, and those outcomes of, coming home, spending time with family. Again, not working harder, working better, working smarter, really cool stuff. And again, you've shared very candidly, your own life, as, a coach, as a wife, as a mother, coming back as a coach again, all those things. Very, very cool stuff. Once again, for listeners, we're visiting today with Mandy Green. She's the president of Busy Coach, also the national recruiting coordinator for Tudor Collegiate Strategies. We're going to take another break, but we'll be back with some more wisdom. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs for their support. You know, Wall of Fame is on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles and an entire library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments by going to vitalsignswalloffame.com or call them at 614-981-3589. You can also email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. Let them help you bring your school's legacy to life. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Mandy Green, former Division I player, coach, and the president of Busy Coach. Mandy, one of the questions we've been asking our guests has to do with this idea of helping kids to develop toughness. 100 years ago, when I was in high school, my coaches would say things like, come on, Jake, you got to be tough. You got to suck it up. And we knew what they meant. I think over the years, we figured out better ways to communicate those ideas to kids. But in my opinion, toughness is still a very important quality for sports and for life. So, here's my question. How can coaches and ADs help kids to develop toughness while also being sensitive to and aware of the very real social emotional challenges that a Generation Z kid experiences that I never had to experience? Do you have any advice for us?
It was interesting. Just this last weekend, I used to coach at Minnesota State Mankato, and there was a group of girls that all came back that we got to hang out with, and we basically laughed for like 6 hours. And we were talking about all of the things that we, the other coach that I worked with, things we used to do just for fitness, things we, competitions that we had. And, as we were trying to get them more physically, mentally tougher, right, and more resilient and dealing with setbacks and dealing with hard things. And, even the new coach of the team, he from what I hear, the girls were kind of talking to him about some of the stuff that they had to go through, even like 15 years ago. And the new head coach is like, I couldn't do that today. I would get fired instantly. And that's where I think, as far as athletic directors and my advice on some things, I mean, it is, staying up with what this generation, the how this generation communicates and some of the challenges that they are facing. But that's where I feel like even, as more from athletic directors, in providing things for student athletes, I really am coming from a place where I'm seeing a lot of coaches who are friends of mine get fired from their positions because they are not prepared to deal with how this generation has changed. And because I do believe that the way that we used to try to develop resiliency and toughness in student athletes has changed dramatically. And I feel like coaches are not prepared. Coaches, we've always coached this way, and this is how we have found success. And I am certainly the person I am today because of all the things that my coach put me through and things that I had to do. We just can't do that with this generation of student athletes now. And that's where I feel, with all of these mental health issues happening, and just the different trends with how this generation needs to hear things and do things, I feel like more training needs to be provided for coaches who are there every day. They spend a lot of time with these student athletes, and I just feel aren't prepared enough to handle a lot of the challenges that are being thrown at them with these student athletes. Like I was saying earlier, I don't know that that's a great answer, but it's, I think more training and how to be better prepared, again, with the ways to communicate, ways to handle in ways that aren't, maybe so combative like we used to, I think, in past. I don't know. I mean, I imagine there's some sort of training out there that athletic directors could put coaches through. I mean, I know coaches every year we have to do our CPR, and we have to do that certification. We have to do, the diversity kind of stuff now. And I feel like, probably the next thing in line that coaches probably need to do on an annual basis is training on how to properly, deal with, the changing of, the mentality of the student athletes, and how, because I don't know, it's just changed. It's changed. And I don't know that coaches are prepared to deal with it the way that we've dealt with it in the past, for sure.
No, you're absolutely right. More training in all areas, and particularly, in this idea of, mental health, and, helping athletes beyond the fields and the courts, absolutely. And hopefully that's what we're doing here a little bit, with our podcast and the things that you're doing, with Busy Coach. So this has been really cool. Really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit and having you share, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. So we're going to take a quick break and hear from Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack that sponsor our AD Toolbox segment. But when we come back, we're going to find out what Mandy Green is going to put in her athletic director's toolbox, tools for a brand new athletic director. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466. Or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. We've been visiting today with Mandy Green. She was a D1 athlete, a soccer player, Division I coach, and now the founder and president of Busy Coach, and also the national recruiting coordinator with Tudor Collegiate Strategies. She certainly knows her way around the world of athletics. But right now I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let her put 3 things in that toolbox. Mandy Green, what's going into your athletic director toolbox?
Well, right, we've been talking about Busy Coach. I would, Busy Coach would be the first one. If you've got coaches working underneath you, you need them to be as productive, efficient, and effective as they possibly can be, both in their sport, but also at home, right? And so Busy Coach will help, provide the training for coaches, for their coaches underneath them, right, in their department to do that well. The other tool, absolutely, I 100% believe in, is Tudor Collegiate Strategies, right? I think the success and the length of the career of the coaches that are going to be working underneath them is their ability to recruit quality student athletes. And Tudor Collegiate Strategies stays on top of all the latest recruiting trends and how a student athlete needs to be communicated with, how their parents need to be included, how social media needs to be used for coaches to more effectively recruit the student athletes, to not just get the volume of kids that you need to, if you're a enrollment driven university, or just improve the quality of kid. There are tons of resources at dantudor.com. There's a podcast, there's there's a newsletter that goes out, there's lots of free resources. But then even as we work one-on-one with clients, and we actually create the recruiting communication plans for them. So that would definitely be one that I would use as well. A third tool that I find for athletic directors, one tool that I provide all the coaches that I work with, just for, I talked about the keystone habit earlier. It's that one thing that will help kind of, take care of a lot of other things. And for me, what I do with a lot of the coaches that I work with is something called a master to-do list. Really, with athletic directors, I know that you've got a lot of things going on and a lot of to-dos on your list. And it's really, I try to help coaches, stop needing to say, oh crap, I forgot that. And so this one planning system, starting the night before, kind of looking at everything that you could possibly do as an athletic director, for the coaches, and proactively be able to plan it, making sure that you're not forgetting things, that, you're delegating things, you're multiplying, your results with all the people that you have underneath you to work with you. But a master to-do list would be the last tool that I would recommend, that I know for me, it was a game changer. It became the foundation of all of my planning. And, again, the one thing, got me, it helped me to structure my days more. It helped me to focus on high value versus low value first. It helped me to delegate. It helped us to get ahead on things. It helped us to improve the quality of work, right? It helped us figure out where we weren't getting a great return on the time and effort we were putting into it. So one thing really knocked out a lot of other things. And that's where, so master to-do list really has been a game changer. And it would be something I would highly recommend for an athletic director and the coaches that they're working with to create and work from.
No, great tools. And it just goes along with, the themes that you've been sharing today about, working more efficiently, having those high value activities, as you shared, coaches and ADs, there's just so many things that are going into their day. And if they're not organized, they're not managing all of those tasks, it's going to be chaos.
Yep.
One more time, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, and also find out more about how Busy Coach can help them, how do they do that? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, no, you can go to my website. It's just busy.coach is my website. Mandy@busy.coach is my email address, or I'll give you my cell phone number again. It's 319-621-2384. Would love to hear from you and see if there's anything I can do to help the coaches in your athletic department.
Mandy Green, Busy Coach and National Recruiting Coordinator for Tudor Collegiate Strategies. Thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks, Jake, for having me on. It was fun.
Oh, it was great. For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of all of these interviews get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again just about every single day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. And before we go, we want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com and talk to their experts. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Thanks again for listening to today's episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Please visit our sponsors, Final Forms, Sideline Interactive, Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack, Wall of Fame by Vital Signs, Hometown Ticketing, and Huddle. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.